Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another War of the Visions video. And today we're going to do a real quick guide on Mont, our new anti-magic mage that just released a couple weeks ago. I've gotten her to 120. I've had a chance to use her in Arena, in Guild Wars, in PvP. And I've got some build ideas that I think show off how exactly she's best used, give you some ideas on comps she likes to run with, how to set her up for some like early turn shenanigans to really be effective, and then I'm willing to like give her a grade and tell you where I think she ranks in the game right now. So let's get to that right now. All right, so let's go ahead and jump straight in to a team build so we can watch a fight, watch how things play out, and then we'll talk about more skills and things as we watch some video, as we watch some battle. Now, what you see is the comp I'm going to be using, and I'm going to overlay on the screen here the theory crafting, like the build idea behind this comp and other ideas. So in slot 1 here, and this is for the current arena map, is Mont. There she is, bing, slot 1, that's like obviously, we're going to use her. It's her video. In slot 2, the key here is running Spellblade, or another unit that can put a magic resist or spirit buff or something like that on Mont on the very first turn. I'm really focusing on Spellblades. I put some of them on the graphic here. There's a lot more of them in this game. It is a fairly common sub job, and it's something that a lot of people I feel have access to. They have a very, very strong magic resist buff that the AI likes to use, so that's going to be my key for slot 2 in this comp. You could substitute that for something like a Rain TMR that's a spirit buff, or another TMR or a piece of gear that buffs spirit. You want the key here in slot 2 is somebody who's faster than Mont, who on slot 1 will buff her to be a better anti-mage. In slot 3, I have either anti-tank or a tank. So in my group, I'm going to be using Titus, and particularly to pick on King Mont. Titus is an effective unit against King Mont, and I know you can build King Mont to be anti-Titus, but King Mont's not going to come run Titus over, right? So I'm going to run Titus there in my team, or you can slot in another tank here. The key with this team is I'm going to overlay another graphic on the screen, and that's how I want them to move. Mont, I want her moving forward on her first turn and casting her magic shield on herself with regen and shell. It's a super good ability. It makes her who she is. Ramada in this group, or the Spellblade, who needs to be faster than Mont, will walk over to her and cast a magic resist buff. And then Titus is just such a good unit that I'm just going to let him go forward, do his own thing, and I want him moving forward. I don't want him grouping up with the girls on their side of the map. I want him 1v1ing that Mont, right? Now, the enemy team that I've put on the screen here is a very common one. It's King Mont, it's Black Rose HELENA, and it's Yuna. It does not have to be this team. The key concept here is the biggest damage sources are mages, and Mont is going to be moving into those mages. Black Rose HELENA will aggro straight forward in this group, probably, because I don't have any hate on my team. So she'll take the closest distance she can to go do damage, and in theory, that should send her into Mont. Yuna will play the backline buffing, but it could be anybody else in slot 2, another mage, whatever. And then Titus, by going forward, will draw King Mont over to him, so King Mont isn't disabling or berserking, my mages or my Ramada. Then Ramada will follow in behind Mont with some cleanup damage. So that's the theory. That's how I want the movement to go. Now let's jump into the screen here, into the team build, and let's look at the vision card abilities that we're running here. Okay, guidance from the stars on Mont. I don't think this is a must-have, but it certainly does help. It gives the whole group magic attack up. Now, in this group, that's only helping Mont, and it's only water units, right? So it's really only good on her. She does like the ability activation times down, and critical damage up is pretty good for Titus, who I'm using in this group. Otherwise, like, you could replace this card with Siren or something like that. You don't have to have that card. I'm going to use it here. Clairvoyant Astrologer. If you're going to run Ramada, I think you run Clairvoyant Astrologer. Biggest reason in this group is it gives magic attack resist up 20. If you're not running Ramada, you could find a person to wear Fenrir in this group, and that would be fine. But Clairvoyant Astrologer on Ramada, the MR Ramada, really just unlocks her. And then Titus is using his card, gives the whole squad some HP, and really buffs himself. With Sateki Dane on, Titus is just a guy you can just, hey, use your TMR buff, go forward, fight the enemy. You can see the gear setup here. We are very leveraged into magic resistance, into spirit, because we want to pick on teams whose main source of damage is magic in type. So there's the build. Now let's go to a video and watch how things play out. Okay, so you can see here that we found the team we're looking for. Slot 1, King Mont for them, Black Rose, Helena, and Yuna making up the rest of the squad. And remember, on the current arena map, their slot 1 matches up across from your slot 3, which in this case is Titus for us. And that's perfect. So we're gonna run it this team. You've seen the battle plan, right? You've seen how we want those first turns to go. We can always control, for the most part, how our first turns will go, but sometimes they'll tweak their AI differently. Here we go. Their King Mont uses bells, runs forward as planned. Now their Helena here is actually also running reverse magic. But here's our Titus putting on Oldoa's TMR going forward, so his damage is unlocked. There's our resist magic buff, and here's Moore's anti-magic wall. So let's pause right here for just a second. Let's go back. Let's look at a more interesting view. There's Moore cast center buff. So what just happened? How is Moore looking right now? Well, she's got the magic resist buff that you see on the screen from Amada. She's got her own shield buff that you see on the screen. This girl is almost unkillable by Black Rose Helena right now. Like literally, good luck, you'll never do it. And so we're set up. Now, how's it gonna play out? Is Black Rose Helena's like early buff gonna play a key here? I don't know. Here's King Mont running forward, maiming slash on Titus. Titus kind of shrugs that off. Zombie transformation from Black Rose Helena. So interesting setup here. But Ramada, oh my gosh, Ramada trucks Black Rose Helena. That unfortunately does not remove the zombie TMR, but here, this will remove it because she's going to kill her right here. Ramada's going to drop the LB. Really cool looking animation that's kind of short. She walks away from explosions. Black Rose Helena's died one time now and come back to life. Yuna is going to be in healing mode because we've put enough damage on their tank, so that's cool. Mont running forward, he's still in his duel with Titus, and Titus is just winning this duel, and this is what we wanted. Now, here's the big test of the build. Will Black Rose Helena's limit break just destroy us, or will we shrug it off? We literally just shrug it off. Like, Moore did not care about that. Even Ramada barely cared about that. And then she snipes Yuna with a spear throw. Moore's going to finish off King Mont right here, and he has re-race, so he'll come back to life. And all of these annoying things that the enemy team has, we're just not as worried about because their main DPS source can't kill our DPS sources. And in fact, we burn her down, beat her, pick up the win, and that is how this fight is supposed to go. And you can see that I'm on a winning streak. I've just been running this squad into either the exact team you saw or other heavy magic or heavy fire teams and just cleaning them up. Okay, so that's how like a team comp can be very effective with her on a short map like that. Obviously not all maps are that short. You can't like instantly engage the enemy like that on every map in the game. So what kind of tools does Moore have to help her with that? What other options do you have within her abilities to run if you want to? And really, I think a big question for a lot of people is, should you take her to 120? Do you need access to those EX skills? Okay, let's jump into her abilities and look. First, let's ask the question, should you take this unit to 120? And I do think you want to if she's going to be like a mainstay of your team. Her 120 ability, Light of Spell Sealing, is large damage with a chance of inflicting silence, and it lowers the caster's, or the person who's getting hits, magic. So that's big. This is a great anti-mage spell. It really fits her kit well. The rest of her EX upgrades are really good too. Fire Spirit's Blessing turns into Fire Spirit's Grace, which raises max HP Spirit and Fire Resist, all things Moore wants to fit that anti-mage bruiser role. I mean, Rain, you're going to just get, eat your heart out, Rain. Okay, anti-magic wall enhancement. This is core to Moore. Core to Moore. It rhymed. That's pretty cool. Anyway, instead of just getting the anti-magic barrier, she also gets shell and regen from this. I think you want to pick those up. So she does power up basically every step along the way of her EX job. I think she gets more powerful, and she is somebody who I would suggest spending blossoms on if she's one of your stronger mages, if you're using her all the time. What about the rest of her abilities? Okay, let's talk about her support abilities first. In that last group, I was running Mage's Protection and Fire Spirit's Grace. We already showed what Fire Spirit's Grace is. Mage's Protection is simply more magic resistance. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, You had more than 100 magic resist in that last group. Couldn't you have subbed this out for a different one? Yes, I could have, but I still like it because that buff, that magic resistance buff from Spellblade is only 3 turns. Sometimes fights, especially fights with Yuna, will drag out longer than the 3 turns of that buff. In my opinion, this gives you some lasting protection. If you wanted to swap that out, you have the option of stacking more spirit or raising your magic. I would stay away from initial AP up, but these other 2 are worth investing in. Okay, reaction ability, I'm using auto cure. There's also magic reflex if you just want another way to not take magic damage, and stealed ephemeral form, which is just chance of taking less damage in general. All 3 are good. Pick your poison, whichever one you want to run. I think the best 2 are Auto Cure and Magic Reflex. Auto Cure particularly good in long PvE fights, where you just sometimes need to be able to heal without consuming healing spells. Her main job, Kodadama Wielder, you can see I've maxed everything in this. I think these skills are all pretty good. Bursting Light, big AoE, Anti-Magic Life Wall, that's that barrier. Heart-like Needles. Now here's an option for you. If you want her to be in a more offensive role, this is a buff that will, it raises magic attack of allies, you can see the AoE it hits in, and raises spirit piercing rate for her for 3 turns. I don't know, I don't like to run this all the time because I kind of want my more going forward as the bruiser and then letting my other DPSs either lag behind or stay with her. But if you want to keep her back for a turn, you can turn this on, but you have to watch out, make sure that she's not casting this. Make sure she's not casting this first and then backpedaling into your team to cast this. That's counterproductive in my opinion. Unavoidable Pain, 100% hit ability. Nimble Movement, I leave this buff on to give her an option on those extended maps or in a situation where the other team pivots away from her. This is something else she can do on her second turn if she's not in range to do damage, and it pretty much guarantees she'll be in range to do damage on her third turn. And then there's her 120 ability. I obviously leave that on. I was running her in her Kodadama Wielder sub-job here, mostly because it just gives her access to a couple more damaging attacks, one of which is a large damage that jumps her in. I want her separating from my team into mages. The thing when you're fighting mages, right, is they do a lot of AoE damage. I really like Earthrending Pain because the AI likes to use it because of how much damage it does, and it warps her into their face. So when that Helena, if you warp into Helena's face and she doesn't die from it, when she steps back and drops a limit break on you, maybe it'll only hit you instead of also hitting your other DPS dealer or your tank, and that's pretty cool. Okay, she also has Red Mage. Red Mage gives her access to Jamming Thrust, really long range ability. I don't like this on short maps because it will prevent her from casting her shield because it's very easy to get in range to Jamming Thrust somebody on turn 1, but it does give her access to Asuna, Kira, Wadara, really good PvE with Asuna if you're fighting stuff that does, any of those status effects you see on the screen. So I do like this sub job. Just not as good for short maps. I do like it on longer maps. Cleric, really situational. You can see I've messed around with using her as a dark resistance buffer for some more anti-Helena action. Didn't have a ton of luck with that. She also has access to Calamity Guard, but she's unlike Mashari, who has this in an AoE form. She just has the single target version of it. I don't really use Cleric that much. But I think her sub-jobs are very good. I think her support abilities are really good. And I think her reaction abilities are very good. Okay, I want to give her a grade now. I want to talk about how I would rank her in terms of mages in this game now that I've had a chance to mess with her a little bit and use her. So let's put her picture on the screen here. Okay, so as an anti-mage, as the thing she is billed as, I think she gets a solid A+ here. Her anti-magic barrier is the best one in the game. Her support abilities, she has access to magic reflex, she can gain more spirit, she can gain more magic resist. She's super flexible in her ways of dealing with magic damage dealers. One of the best in the game, and you saw how easy it was. With just one buff from a group mate, she was able to hit over 100 magic resistance on the first turn. So that's very easy. She's very good there. As a damage dealing mage, she really doesn't slack off in this regard. In the group you just saw, yes, she was buffing her own magic attack up, but I wasn't running Skull's card with Magic Maneater on it too, and buffing her magic stat with Ramu or something like that. I wasn't doing any of those things, and she still was doing really respectable damage. I'm going to give her a really solid A- as a damage dealer. I don't think she's on that Black Rose Helena level, but into the right she can carry for you. She can definitely be somebody to do your carrying if you wanted to run her with like a tank and a Yuna. You saw I prefer running her with somebody like backup damage, another damage type, but she can definitely do it by herself. And then as a support, she can bring some support to your group, especially with that red mage sub job. She has some heals, she has Esuna in there, and it's really not a terrible option to run her with those, especially on a map like maybe the current Guild Wars map, the beach. It gives her that really long range, big damaging attack, and then gives her access to heals for like a turn 2 in Guild Wars or something like that, and it gives her some heals in PvE if she's in tower, etc. So I'm going to give her a B- as a support. She doesn't bring any kind of raise. Her buffs are like, you really have to run like cleric for the buffs, and they're just specific element resist buffs, but she does bring some heals. She does bring Esuna, so she can support, and her heals hit pretty hard because she's a mage with the red mage sub, so her heals are pretty good. I'll give her like a B-, C+ range there. It's something she can do, but her AI is going to prioritize killing the other team because she is a mage first. So let's lock that in as a C+ supporter. Mostly, she's meant to be an anti-magic bruiser and a damage dealer, and then she can kind of support on the side. So there's my scores for More. Let me know what you guys think about. Let me know if you have any More teams that have worked really well for you. I've seen a lot of videos of More working in Guild Wars and in PvP, so thank you guys for sharing those. And that's it, y'all. This has been a short More guide. I hope it was good, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.